Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Episode Tarek in a continuing series, Model Museum, where I review every single Sega Model 1, 2, and 3 arcade game in a retrospective fashion. That's not an arcade racing game because I did that one last year. And today we're taking a look at Pilot Kids, which is a really interesting shmup on the Sega Model 2 with a really interesting development history because this game came out in 1999. It was the last Sega Model 2 game ever released, and both Dreamcast, Naomi, and Sega Model 3 were available in arcades and at home, making this a very strange release on outdated hardware. Just because it wasn't using the most popular hardware of the time, though, doesn't mean it's not an amazing game because it's got a total vibe going for it. Before we get too far involved, though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel like kind of want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But Pilot Kids is a shmup, obviously you can tell in the horizontal orientation, and it's definitely easier than a lot of the other shmups that were in arcades at the time. That's not to say the game doesn't get difficult in later stages, but this kind of feels like game player's first shmup, for lack of a better term. This is where you kind of hone your teeth on the genre, get a little bit better with it, and then graduate to more intense experiences. But outside of the fact that it is slightly easier, this game is one of the most charming games on the Sega Model 2 made by Sega or any other company, because most of the games on the hardware were Sega developed and released, but other developers including Psiyko did use the hardware when they needed 3D. If you can't tell already, we are in a home. We are a tiny person on a ship, one of the children of the house, and basically all of our toys have come to life to attack us after an alien invasion. It's actually a really good inciting incident for a game, and I love just how charming all the enemies are. All of these different monsters and mutants and animals brought to life from a toy 100% works, because how else do you explain pigs that are just walking around the sky outside of aliens and made them do it? And obviously, if you don't remember, Toy Story was popular around this era as well, which kind of lends this to feeling like it might be inspired at least a little bit by that. This kind of toy come to life theming in 3D was 100% a big thing with that movie, and I feel like Pilot Kids must borrow some inspiration from that as well. You're not going to be seeing Buzz Lightyear or Woody in this game, but it would not be out of place if you did see them. Now mechanically it's interesting as well. It's obviously a shmup, so you have your basic shot that you can charge up, but you're also going to see that we have a set amount of stars that we can increase with power-ups, and you can mark every enemy with a star, and whenever those stars connect with the line, you can hit a button and have that rocket come out. You can destroy up to like 6 enemies at once, and as that rocket goes through bosses, it's going to take more of their life bar off than their general shot. So it really does, especially in later levels, behoove you to understand that mechanic and really change those stars together, because you'll see there with just a 2-star chain, we were able to do a ton of damage to the boss, and it's going to be involving score as well, because you're going to see a multiplier come up every single time you do that. But I love the references in the background as well. If you've never seen that film, Mon Oncle, it is 100% awesome, and I'm sure I just mangled that pronunciation, but again, English, not French. But I love that you get to go through the entire children's house, from your mother's room to your father's room, the bathroom, everything in between, including the attic and basement. It's such a wild ride, and it feels like such a big game for being such a small game. The screen doesn't scroll that fast. They're definitely using a lot of economy and design as far as what they show on screen at once for the backgrounds, but it just works in that perspective of feeling like you're a little tiny object in a human-sized world. I love it. And this snowman here is so charming, basically just a snow globe creature come to life just to attack you. And you will see that you can also shoot projectiles out of the sky. Some of them will not go away with your bullets, but other ones you can shoot, kind of giving yourself an easier opening. And that's why I say this game is definitely designed more as a beginner's experience, but it is such a charming experience that we really can't fault it for not having too much difficulty. And honestly, if you're not too familiar with the shmup genre, this is a great place to start to kind of get used to what it's expecting out of you and how to play. And you'll see here with that chain there, I was able to knock all of those enemies out of the screen at once. It becomes super important. But of course this game has a soundtrack, and it actually is very well fitting to the childlike whimsy theming of this game. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds, and I'll come back and show you more Pilot Kids and talk about the history of the game and Psiyko in general. But enjoy, because it is good. It's a cutesy, charming, upbeat soundtrack for a cutesy, charming game, and this definitely would get really close to the cute 'em up genre, but honestly, I don't know that it would 100% hit that, so leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think, and also tell me if you've ever played this game before, whether it was in arcades or at home via emulation, because I feel like Pilot Kids is not one that a lot of people mention, but we get to go outside as well, and now the toy theming kind of takes a backseat to more of a nature theme. We're going to have all of these bees here getting shot, but of course we have rocket ships as well, not exactly known for being a backyard pest, at least not in my yard. And I love that the family dog Tom is in the back as well, and he's going to be showing up shortly. But again, just the charm in this game. It's so colorful, it's so fun, you can't help but have a smile on your face when you're playing it. And I love the dog's animations as well. They're definitely not a ton of frames of animation, even though it is a 3D model, but it's got such a weird, unique look. It almost looks like a real dog, but you can also tell it's not a real dog whatsoever. All of the design, all of the art in this game is so realistic while being so cartoonish at the same time. And some things are just absolutely hilarious. Like this gnome here holding a garden pot. Not out of place in pretty much any home that you could possibly think of, or if your mom loves collecting tchotchkes, definitely my childhood home. But my gnome did not have a Gatling gun growing up. In Pilot Kids, he 100% does. And you can see as we get into later stages as well, the game's difficulty does increase. You're going to see a lot more projectiles on screen, you're going to start taking deaths, and you're going to have a lot more to navigate around. You'll see I took my first death in the video there. It does get harder. That's the thing, it opens up so casually, some people might not think this game is for them, but definitely see it through to the finish because you're going to find a lot of fun stuff here, not just in the mechanics but in the characters as well. Because as soon as we get up at the top of these stairs here, we have these little plastic army men, a childhood favorite of so many kids, but then we're also going to have what I assume is going to be Bruce Lee here fighting us. Almost looks like Bruce Lee combined with Law from the Tekken series, but obviously that's Namco, not Sega, so maybe they were just assuming both. But it's just one of those things. You can't help but be happy when you play this game, waiting to see what comes next, what other enemies you're going to be facing, and what other rooms in the house you're going to be fighting through. That's a lot of where the charm is as well, just seeing this natural home environment with so much toy-based chaos going on around it. You even have Django, not the one from Quentin Tarantino, but a different Django completely, an Italian movie, in the game as well as that gunslinger. And you'll see he even has that toy icon on him, definitely a callback to Toy Story, I don't care what they say. But it's just so wild. Fighting this toy on a ladder in what looks like going up to the attic, you can't help but wonder where they got the idea for this game, because Psiyko was known for making pretty intense hardcore shmups, so to get something like this from them is both awesome and a little bit confusing. And that's why I think this game doesn't really get mentioned near as much as it should, because compared to Psiyko's other output, this is definitely the outlier. Not in a bad way, just in a completely different themed way. But again, with that rocket you'll see there, that 32x multiplier, this can be a great score attack mode as well. Learn how to use the rocket, learn how to chain it together, and you'll score a ton. One more taste of soundtrack though, because I love this part. Just such a catchy soundtrack, and if you can't tell already in this final stage, this is when Psiyko tells the player, we've been going easy on you in the first half of the game, but now we're really driving up the intensity, and when we get to the final boss, it's going to go absolutely crazy, because I am going to take some deaths here. It does get to be a very intense bullet pattern, even with being able to shoot some of them out of the sky, and once this big arm here starts swinging around, your screen space management is going to become super important, because you're going to start taking deaths and continues until you learn the patterns. And that's what I love about Pilot Kids. It lulls you in with a false sense of security, and then Psiyko says, we are hardcore shmup makers, let us show you what we mean. And you'll see here these blue bullets cannot be shot whatsoever. To me, it's just disappointing that Pilot Kids doesn't get talked about more, and I think that's just down to the fact that Psiyko made so many incredible shmups. A game like this with its cutesy theming and slightly easier than average difficulty in the beginning third of the game probably turns a few players off, but tell me down below what you think of the game, if you played it, and if so, where. And I even love this little credit sequence here. The animation on the characters has such a cartoon sort of book look to it. It really does fit the entire genre and vibe of the game, and I love that the alien is upset because he is lost. But I'll be back next week with another episode of Model Museum. I'll have videos throughout the week as well. But if you've never played Pilot Kids before, play it after this video is over. It works perfectly on the Model 2 emulator, and you're going to have fun. See you next time. Bye-bye.